Hello everyone and welcome to this collaborative webinar organized by HESI in partnership with Expandia. I say hello, but mostly I should say thank you. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you because the topic we are going to work on together during this workshop, as Meredith mentioned, is probably one of the most complex puzzles to solve in higher education today when it comes to sustainability. And the question is how to help faculty members to bring sustainability into their courses. And of course, when we are talking about reaching faculty, we are talking about reaching a vast majority of professors, not just the ones who are actually already convinced and have already started the movement. So thank you, because we truly believe that what we are launching today with this HESI webinar could massively impact higher education in the next years to come. As Meredith mentioned, I'm JC, I'm the co-founder of Sulitest, and I'm lucky enough to be the co-chair of HESI, along with our friends from UNESCO, UNU, and UNDESA. As HESI brings together all the UN bodies that work with higher education, as well as major networks and players in the sector. HESI, I think, is a perfect example of the SDG 17, a multi-stakeholder partnership. From on our side at Sulitest, since the movement was born a couple years ago, we have had the same philosophy of partnership and co-creation. Everything that we have done for nearly 15 years now, we have done with others. So not only because we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but also because we know that no one has the magic solution. But we are deeply convinced that together we can find the solutions to move forward. Back to the puzzles I mentioned, many times in different conferences, webinars, in HESI and outside, the issue of supporting teachers has come up as a major challenge for institutions. For most of us working in this topic, we know that for a long time now, some faculty have created amazing dedicated sustainability course or perfectly update their existing course, bringing sustainability in. Nevertheless, the academic community is extremely diverse, and many reports show that a few, let's say, conventional courses have actually evolved. On that note, 2 years ago, by the way, we launched an international survey on faculty engagement, which we presented at the high-level political forum. And the survey highlighted that beyond an already engaged vanguard, a large majority of teachers either didn't see the link between their discipline and the global challenges, or they felt a place and they don't know where to start. And this is even with all those amazing number of initiatives and resources, often of good quality. So in this context, the French government mandated a consortium of players led by Sulitest to help several thousand higher education faculty members in France integrate sustainability topic into the discipline. And this is probably one of the most ambitious programs ever launched in terms of number of people targeted. But while discussing with HESI community and co-chairs, we thought that the problem wasn't, of course, a French problem. It concerned all universities worldwide. And this is why we want to take advantage of the launch of Expandia, the name of the project from France, as an opportunity. And our goal today is really to launch a global movement to massively scale up train the trainers program around the world. And this is why we gathered here today. And we thank you for that. In a moment, you are going to work together, as Meredith mentioned. It's really a way, it's not a top-down, it's really something where we need your neuron and your energy. And the idea is to try and build on existing initiative to find the levers and, of course, finally accelerate the movement. Before I hand it over to you for the Fishbowl session that our friend John North from GRLI will present brilliantly, I will now pass the mic to the co-founder of Sulitest, who will set the context as a collective inquiry. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, JC. Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all attendees, depending on where you are. And thank you very much for joining us for this webinar today. My name is Aurelien. I am the co-founder of Sulitest and the co-pilot of the Expandia project that was just mentioned. Indeed, engaging and training the trainer is a key lever. It is, of course, one piece of the puzzle when it comes to shifting the higher education system, but it is a crucial one. I have been myself a professor in higher education for more than 10 years, so I understand well the complexity of the challenge that we are discussing today, and I literally sense this challenge. For my years of teaching and collaborating with colleagues, I kept the need to be supported, to be well equipped with relevant trainings, relevant resources, of course, but most of all, two pressing needs. One, recognizing the diversity of professors and educators and the ability to design tailored initiatives to meet them where they are. And two, the importance to connect to peers, connect to networks, to initiatives, to put your practices in context, to be inspired, and to scale the movement beyond good practices. And this is exactly what we want to discuss today with this great variety of stakeholders. And to set the scene, before we enter into this interactive discussion, I'm happy and honored to introduce this incredible panel with three high-level speakers to give us a short 3-minute introduction before we dive into the collective discussion. Thank you very much to Jonghwi Park, Head of Academic Program and Innovation and Education, at the United Nations University and HESI co-chair. Noah SOBE, Chief of Session for Higher Education at UNESCO, and Pierre-Henry DODART, in charge of the Environmental and Sustainability Education at the French Ministry of Ecology, Energy and Territories. Thank you very much for being here with us and for agreeing to kickstart our discussion today. And we will start with Jonghwi. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for a nice introduction. And I'm very happy to be part of this great launch of the Expandia project. To set the scene, I got actually the instruction and questions from the Sulitest and organizer of this event. And the question was actually, how is this sustainability integrated into my institution roadmap and projects? To answer this question in 3 minutes, it's quite challenging, but let me try. The UNU-IAS, the institution that I belong to, is in a very unique position in integrating sustainability into the institutional roadmap in 3 ways. First, we have our own master's and PhD program on sustainability itself. So the degrees are called Masters in Sustainability and PhD in Sustainability Science. So we have our own degrees about sustainability. So it's not very, how can I say, as challenging as other comprehensive university that has their own disciplines. What sets apart our program from others is our program is trying to design the curriculum in a transdisciplinary way, meaning it's not just interdisciplinary, but also trying to be disciplinary, engaging community level multi-stakeholders. So how are we doing this community level engagement in a university level? That's our second unique position. UNU-IS has a network called Regional Centers for Expertise on Education for Sustainable Development. In short, we call it RCE. And the network has been growing into 200 members now for the last 20 years across the world. The mission of these RCEs are very clear: to translate global sustainability issues into local context and local solutions. So many RCEs around the world, our members, are collaborating with universities and sometimes led by universities, promoting the transdisciplinary approaches to education for sustainable development. And thirdly and lastly, UNU-IS also serves as the secretariat for ProsperNet, another network, stand for Promotion of Sustainability in Postgraduate Education and Research. This network is to extend our transdisciplinary mission to Asia-Pacific region. And currently we have about 55 member universities across Asia Pacific region who have been trying really hard to integrate SDGs or sustainable development into their curriculum and research. And one of the speakers today in the next session is Dr. Usha, who is one of our proud members of ProsperNet and who have been doing extraordinary jobs in integrating sustainability into the curriculum. So instead of me speaking about that, maybe it's better to listen to her how she did it. So let me stop here and thank you very much again.
Thank you very much for this introduction and for giving us the view of the UNU and ProsperNet. And I will now turn to Noah for giving us the perspective of UNESCO.
Thanks very much, Aurelien and colleagues. Great to be with you today. I'm pleased to come in and appreciate and celebrate the work you're doing today on training trainers around embedding sustainability education in higher education and talk a little bit about how it relates to UNESCO's new global roadmap for transforming higher education. So that report, as you might be able to see in my background, is titled Transforming Higher Education, Global Collaboration on Visioning and Action. The QR code can take you to a PDF of it. We'll also put a link in the chat. Currently, this is in English, but forthcoming in other languages soon. So this piece grows out of the World Higher Education Conference and all the dynamics and consultations that were mobilized around that. And one of its key messages is that for higher education to be the transformative force in the world that we need it to be, higher education needs to be transformed. And as you might be able to see in the cover illustration, the publication is styled as a roadmap. And this is to recognize that there will be different starting points, different priorities and different settings and moments, but there are going to be some shared directions of travel. Overall, this piece underscores the fact that higher education institutions and systems are going to need to be different in the future than they are today. They're going to need to be more inclusive, better protected, better connected, better resourced, also more critical, creative, and innovative, more relevant and impactful, and more attuned to sustainably living well together within planetary boundaries. And on this last point, one of the 7 guiding principles of the report is a call to center sustainability, stewardship, and regeneration in higher education. Now, you're going to spend the rest of this session talking about sustainability. So maybe I just say a word or two about stewardship and regeneration in the interests of adding to the conversation. I would submit that the higher education sector is really well positioned to become an exemplar of responsible stewardship. This begins perhaps with the adoption of robust sustainability commitments in the management of campus facilities, land holdings, so property owned by universities. And just on that note, universities globally control an extraordinary amount of land when you add it all together. And just think what we can do when we all move in the same directions in managing that land, stewarding that land. So stewardship, I would say, also extends into the management of knowledge resources, and I could go into open science. But basically, my proposal here is that we think about stewardship as a key part of sustainability education, and I know there's parts of that conversation that are going to be taken up later. The second thing I just want to also put on the table alongside sustainability and stewardship is the attention we have to give to repairing what is already degraded and damaged. And this is where regenerative approaches come in, approaches that design human systems to co-evolve with natural ecological systems. And I think a regenerative imperative needs to be in the foreground as we think about higher education preparing its students to green economies, to build sustainable communities, to promote well-being, to find paths forward for lives of purpose. For example, any effort to prepare students for future employment, to cultivate entrepreneurship, I think needs to be framed by a commitment to regeneration, to finding a symbiosis where people and nature flourish. So I hope these suggestions and thoughts are useful to you as you embark on this journey into a conversation about teaching sustainability. And I'll put a link to this report in the chat and hope it's useful. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Noah. And indeed, I think it's quite important to be able to connect the dots and to put all our work in the perspective of connecting the different roadmaps and initiatives. And I do support the need for higher education to lead by example and to provide this regenerative approach. Now turning to Pierre-Henry DODART, who will give us the perspective of the Ministry of Ecological Transition in France.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. And thank you to the organizers for giving me only 3 minutes. This is actually very good news for everyone, especially given my level of English and my terrible accent. So perhaps to begin, I will try to a slight shift in perspective. The issues we are discussing today are probably not only about evolving curricula. They also invite us to reflect more broadly on the role higher education can play in the deep transformation our societies are facing. In this context, faculty training appears as an important lever, but it sits within a broader set of factors. Teaching practices do not evolve through training alone. They are also shaped to some extent by institutional frameworks, including curricular structures, assessment method, or institutional priorities. I'm sorry. Part of the difficulty seems to lie precisely in this articulation. So in this landscape, initiatives such as Expandia appears particularly interesting, not only because they provide training opportunities, but also because they rely on a consortium of actors and an institution already engaged in this transformation. In that sense, they can be seen as a space for experimentation, a space that helps both to build capacity and to better understand the conditions under which this transformation can unfold, as well as the limits they encounter. And from the perspective of the French Ministry for Ecological Transition, working closely with the Ministry of Higher Education, this is the kind of dynamic we aim to support. And that's why we have decided to accord a lot of money to this program. Not as a standalone solution, but as one lever among others to help identify and progressively address certain limitations, whether already known or revealed through such initiatives. The challenge, perhaps, is to ensure that what is learned does not remain as the individual level, but can also contribute to broader systemic evolutions. That's all I have to say. And I wish you to have a very good day.
Thank you very much, Pierre-Henry, and thank you to the three of you for setting the scene and the context for our collective discussion. I think now we are all set to work and to enter into the interactive discussion. And with this, I will hand it over to John North, who will introduce our next activity.
Thanks, Aurelien. So this is John North. I'm joining you from South Africa on behalf of the Globally Responsible Leadership Initiative. And I really want to thank the speakers from the UN and the French Ministry for helping set the context so clearly. What we're going to do now is shift gears quite deliberately and quickly from the input and the reflections into collective inquiry and into action. Because the real purpose of today is not just to hear perspectives, but really to initiate the conversation and to stimulate those actions that we can carry forward. So the question that we're placing at the center of today's Fishbowl convening, which is what we start off here and then the breakouts, is the following. How do we equip and empower the entire faculty to meaningfully integrate sustainability, and specifically reaching beyond those that are already convinced are involved in teaching and researching sustainability? So how do we mainstream this across the whole institution and across the landscape of higher education? The way we're going to do this is through a fishbowl conversation. And it's very simple. We start with a small group in the center, which is already on the screen. And they are our conversation stewards. And then we're going to open the space, inviting others to join in the fishbowl. So whilst you are listening to these opening remarks, you are encouraged to jot down in the chat any relevant contributions that you may wish to bring to the conversation. We'll get back to those later on. And the idea here is that this really becomes participatory, not just performative. The intention is that we do not have a panel. It's a living conversation. Okay, so with that, I'm very much delighted, and it's an honor to welcome into the conversation the following people on the screen. Clémentine Robert, the project manager at University of St. Gallen. Professor Adeline Ochs, professor at Audencia. Dr. Meredith Storey, who's the senior manager at PRME, Principles for Responsible Management Education, and Professor Usha Iyer-Raniga, chair of ProsperNet UNU. So thank you all for being here and for helping us open this space. We are loosely holding this across 4 lenses, and the 4 of you are going to bring some of those perspectives. Those lenses, broadly speaking, and these are the ones that we'll also use in our breakout rooms, deals with culture and resistance. Firstly, with pedagogical integration. Secondly, with capacity building and support systems for faculty in the 3rd instance. And then in the 4th, with institutional alignment and governance. And I'm not going to go into detail on those now, because you're going to help us color this in. And of course, those 4 lenses are not fixed. They will overlap and complement each other. And in the spirit of us forming part of a living system, the way we're going to approach the conversation here is we'll start anywhere. We don't have a sequence, and we're going to follow it everywhere. Okay? So this is an opportunity to be brave. I'm going to ask, who would like to begin with sharing from their perspective, experience, and context through a particular lens, their views on the question that we're holding today about equipping and empowering the entire faculty to meaningfully integrate sustainability. Who's ready to pop? Who's ready to go first? Don't be shy. I see Clémentine has already unmuted herself. Clémentine, are you ready? Go.
Sure, yes. Thank you so much. I think it's a very important conversation to have, and I'm glad we're all here to discuss this and find ways collaboratively. And so as Jean-Christophe mentioned at the beginning, I don't have the magic solution. However, maybe from my experience, more towards the capacity building and the faculty support system, what I like to do is really to take a positive and collaborative approach to really get the maximum number of faculty and equip them, empower them across the institution. It's not easy to do. It's super easy to say, but it's not easy to do. And it's something that, requires a lot of energy, a lot of experimentations as well. And when I say collaboration, I really try to find a way to collaborate with the students, so they are also constructive and supportive, peer faculty, with experts as well inside the university, outside the university, really so that we really, in a coordinated manner, develop different services to really fit the needs and preferences of the diverse faculty that we have, because not everyone has the same needs, not everyone has the same preferences and how they like to be accompanied in really integrating sustainability in their courses, for example, or also with the program managers in their programs, because that can also help the faculty if we think about it that way. So it's really to find these positive and collaborative approaches, and maybe I can share a little bit about what we've been trying to do. So I'm at the University of St. Gallen, and really I try to work with a student club, with 3 different administrative services from across the university to really bridge people and make sure we build on each other's ideas, projects, resources, and also 2 research centers specialized on this on didactics and sustainability in higher education. So really to bring that together and create some kind of a powerful alliance to go across the university and the institution. Main challenge, obviously, it's communication, reach out to all those faculty. We have faculty all over the university, and that's always complicated. But it's a challenge that may be overcome thanks to the support of the leadership, for example. That's where it comes really handy and important. And maybe a tool that I can share with, that can help equip and empower faculty, I think Simon put it in the chat already, is the Sustainability in Academia. And that's it's really a collaborative effort with WWF Switzerland, with the Network for Business Sustainability and our university, to find ways to make it simple for faculty to integrate sustainability in their course, showing existing materials that are out there and what they can use. So beginners can use these, more advanced also in integrating sustainability in their courses can use that as well. So it's really, trying to walk the talk. Again, it's not easy, but it's worth the try,
Thanks, Clem. And whoever's ready to follow on that is welcome.
I'm happy to go next, John, if that's okay with you.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thanks. I'll try and be brief. I just want to pick up on something that Noah said about universities and universities' campuses being buildings. So I think this is actually a great opportunity for universities to walk the talk and to demonstrate. And I think particularly the millennials and the upcoming generation want to see examples. They will argue with you in terms of supporting the transition to where we need to go in terms of sustainability and circularity. There are wonderful opportunities that I still think opens lots of options for us to engage universities. So using campuses itself as living labs. And certainly from the discipline that I come in, the built environment gives us lots of options across all disciplines associated with the built environment. I also think that universities it just cannot happen, and it's definitely not going to happen overnight. So it requires both a top-down and a bottom-up. And in some of the research that we have done, I often get asked the question or get told that it's very difficult to change some of the older faculty members into thinking about bringing in non-technical solutions and thinking about accreditation by meeting the technical requirements, but also bringing that accreditation needs into the 21st century. And I think, again, in the built environment disciplines, this can become quite difficult. So we really need to also think about empowering faculty members to see how they can bring new thinking, new ways of engaging students, using the university campuses itself as opportunities for engagement. So I think I'll stop there and I can pick up on some of the other points later on. Thanks, John. Over to you.
Thank you, Usha. And I'm looking at Adeline and Meredith, whoever's ready to go ahead. Welcome to unmute.
Yes, of course.
Go ahead, Meredith. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful to listen in so far. I would like to explore this a little bit from the pedagogical lens, but before we jump into that, just to acknowledge some of the other parts of this conversation, John, like you said, we're anywhere and everywhere in this conversation. So Noah's earlier points about for higher education to be transformative, it must be transformed. And what Jonghwi said about making the experience for yourself, building the master's programs and the PhD programs. When it comes to the power of pedagogy, it's not just transforming the system, it's looking internally, it's looking to yourself as an educator, as a researcher, as an expert, as a human being, and saying, what can I bring to this classroom? What can I bring to these students? How can I bring this to them? And conversations like the one that we're having here are really a wonderful foundation to show what's possible, that not everybody shows up to every call as though it's a HESI call, to every classroom as though it's this meeting, but it's these inspirations that we as educators, as researchers, as members of this global community can take back to our groups, to our specialists, to our communities, and to scale up and spread from there. So we know that if it was easy, it would have been done already, but showing up authentically and bringing interest and bringing joy and bringing these opportunities to those around us. When it comes to pedagogy, it's like Usha kind of mentioned, there's that criticality that students want more, that they want to question, that they want to challenge. And there's, as an educator, an innate sense of confidence that you need to have in being able to handle and manage that challenge. And so building the communities around us to be places of strength, to be places where we're okay to be vulnerable and test these limits with one another, where we're okay to have these difficult conversations and to show up authentically so that we can push the needle on this. That if it was easy, it would be done, but we're here together, and that's what makes this powerful and possible. And it's not only the pedagogical lens that to really be considered, it's those barriers around it, the systemic change that that pushes forward, that we know that we operate within a system that relies upon impact factors and tenure and the scales and systems for practice within your own institution and the socialized norms of your class and your department and those around you, those being resistant to the change. And as humans, being able to connect with those in your department, with those beyond, finding your community of practice, your language and your voice within your discipline to extend further, not just in the sustainable development narrative, but in being able to challenge your students, challenge the faculty and researchers around you to think differently, to move forward and to just really be powerful and impactful together. So it's a call for good pedagogy, but also really for community and that balance of not feeling like this needs to be work in isolation. And HESI has long been a great marker for that, but to see the Sulitest project moving forward here, you can see this community growing and developing, and pedagogy is really at the heart of all of that. So I'll pause there until the next round, and Adeline, to you.
Thank you, Meredith. Thank you, all of us. Yeah, it's to echo to what Meredith, Clémentine, and Usha said, through sharing also feedback about a program that we have implemented at Audencia 3 years ago, which is called GIFT, Gaia Improvement for Future Teaching, which is a program and the aim of this program is dedicated to faculty members at Audencia, the 150 faculty members, to support them in integration of ecological and social transition. What I would like to share is a few points, but first, the governance. When we launched this program, it has been made by a team. And the composition of the team was really important. The team was the Associate Dean for Faculty and Research, Thibaut Berdon, but also the Associate Dean for Learning and Quality Development, Tamim El-Basha, and me as a faculty member. And the fact that we are three with different positions inside the school was really important to create this movement. And yeah, the other point to make an echo to Meredith is the community. And before we launch the program and define what we should do inside, we also make a huge consultation among our faculty members. We've done focus groups, individual interviews to really understand. And the key question was how to create a collective momentum around ecological and social transition. And what was really interesting is that our faculty members, they said they want, it's exactly what has been said also in introduction, interdisciplinary discussions, even if we need to increase our skills inside each discipline. So one of the objectives was also to create a mix in between interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary elements, and also disciplinary things linked to sustainability. And we, so when we launch it, we also nominate in each department gift ambassadors who were faculty members. So because we realized that it's not the same way we will speak about sustainability in finance or in marketing or in culture, and the way colleagues will speak inside their department about sustainability is important that they speak the same language. So you see, it's really the good balance to find in between what we need to input inside the department, but also events, transdisciplinary events. And we also organized what we called gift pedagogical retreat. So it was one full day with colleagues from different departments speaking about sustainability in management, gift training day, so training from colleagues to other colleagues in order also to increase sharing knowledge, but also reinforce what Meredith said, also the community spirit, which was really important. And what we realized also is that it's what you said at the beginning, it's the profile of our colleagues or the faculty members are really different. So we need to provide to the faculty members a large amount of different resources so the faculty members can also pick up what they need and what they want depending on where they are in the path of sustainability and sustainability knowledge. So we provided online resource, short, long. We also implementing events each month in department meeting. It's what we call the gift minute, in order also to really integrate in the habits of our faculty the question of sustainability in teaching. And we organize full days event and sometimes just half day event, but never, I don't know if we're right or not, but never compulsory. It was always something that faculty members could choose.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adeline. And just initially some wonderfully rich remarks that we're hearing from these four lenses. I'm looking at the chat. Anyone who has a really interesting and impactful contribution that they wish to share is welcome to raise their hand using the chat function. Whilst we're waiting just to see who puts up their hand the highest, I'm going to ask whether Clem, Meredith, Usha, we've just heard from Adeline, maybe one of you would like to build on what you've heard already in the conversation. Usha, please go ahead. I see you're ready.
Oh. Yeah, thanks. I suppose one point that I did want to raise, and this has come out of some work we did with Prospernet and UNU, is that different countries, particularly in the global south, are at different stages of their transition to sustainability, and particularly in relation to the built environment in terms of techniques and materials, the post-occupancy evaluation, and a whole range of things associated, energy efficiency. So many things come into the play here. And one of the things that has worked really successfully with some of our research has been to not take a big jump, particularly with both the faculty as well as the students. It has been more around taking small steps, but more sure steps. And what I mean by that is when we teach in the classroom, while we use examples from Sweden or Netherlands or Denmark, essentially the global north, we know that the industrial environment in a number of these countries in the global south is not conducive to having that same jump in terms of the materials or the construction techniques or whatever it may be. So we have tried as much as possible to use local case studies. And so there is that stretch target or the stretch best practice example from another country. But at the same time, we are saying, and we're giving a very clear message that we also want to bring in these local examples so that we're not saying that the local examples are not good or not quite there yet. So we're trying to do that. So we're trying to also, and culturally, from an indigenous perspective, from a materials perspective, there is value add in looking at some of these local passive designs and passive techniques also to be part of the conversation. So I hope I made that point really clear, that it's important to also bring in the local examples so that we know where we're sitting, but also those sort of stretch targets as well. Thanks.
Excellent. And I see Isabel has already joined our circle. Isabel, you're very welcome. Do you want to build on what you're hearing? And then we'll go back to Clémentine and Meredith if there's anything. Isabel?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for organizing this conversation. And it's nice to see so many familiar faces, but also some new colleagues at the table. So my name is Isabel Thoman. I work as Senior Program Officer at the International Association of Universities. So I work on higher education and research for sustainable development. And at the IU with our members, what we do a lot is like activities that go from the leadership level, right? I've shared our survey, looked a bit more at strategy. So I feel like there's these two levels, like there's the institutional governance and the leadership, and then there's the part that the educators, the trainers can actually do. And I think one thing that I wanted to bring into the conversation is like this notion of a whole institutional approach and really very much trying to connect the dots, because it doesn't, I think most from what I've heard, it doesn't really help if you're a very engaged educator, but then you feel like you're blocked from your institutional structures. So you have to have these different directions of change. And I wanted to mention that we've been working on a project with UNESCO ESD, so Education for Sustainable Development, working on guidance tools that are going to be published in June, also on the whole institutional approach, but also on competence and assessment. But it was just the one side note. But I think the interesting question is maybe also for the educators and for the group today, how they can bridge this gap between what is the institutional strategy, what are the many things that they need to compete with in terms of institutional priorities, and how can they, within their role, help transform the teaching, transform the learning at the faculty, and also like connect to other faculties and of course engage students. So it was just like a bit of a thought, and trying to see what solutions we can come up with. Thanks so much.
Great. Many thanks, Isabel. And I see we've also got Natalie joining us. So thanks, Isabel, from International Association of Universities. Natalie, would you like to, you've got about 60 seconds just to add a few remarks.
Yeah, I try to be brief, thanks. It definitely takes some courage to speak in front of this audience. I speak from University of Brest in France. This conversation raised a big question for me. I heard regeneration before. I heard that the university, to be transformative, needs to be transformed. So I really wonder, when I hear we need to integrate sustainability into disciplines, whether it's not the other way around, like we need to integrate, to start by our common health and to start by sustainability, and add on the different disciplines that we need to tackle those, what's at stake. It's a revolution. I'm fully aware that this is not how the institution is being built, but I wonder how we can create niches to start not the improvement, but the revolution, something like that.
Wonderful.
Just my 2 cents.
Absolutely, and a very valuable 2 cents. Thank you so much for adding that. And of course, we are continuing this because we are moving towards the breakouts and coming back here after, I think, 25 minutes or so, where we will continue to hear from the room, but also some conclusions from our conversation starters. So I'm going to take 2 or 3 minutes just to quickly try to summarize some of what we've hearing, and then we're going to go into the breakouts. There's a lot of richness here, and what's striking me firstly is that this is not so much a problem about knowledge. There are tools, there are initiatives, there are examples. I'm inclined to say that what we're seeing is a challenge of alignment between leadership and faculty, between pedagogy and incentives, between global frameworks and local realities. And so the question becomes less about what do we teach as to what are the conditions that we are creating for teaching to evolve. And then secondly, there's obviously something quite important around culture. It doesn't just happen. It's designed, it's curated, it's reinforced through the structures, through the rituals, through the tone, through what gets recognized and valued. And so in that sense, small things, even like how conversations are held, becomes quite powerful and relevant. Thirdly, I think there's a recognition here that there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Different disciplines, different regions, different faculty profiles all require different entry points. And so scaling doesn't mean standardizing. It actually means becoming more adaptive and more context sensitive. And then finally, if I may be so bold, I think there's a recurring tension here, or maybe it's a polarity between top-down and bottom-up change, as we've just heard there from Natalie as well. So what seems to be emerging is that neither of those is sufficient on its own. We need at once leadership that signals direction, creates space, and distributed co-ownership that brings that to life in practice. Okay. I would try to put that in a thought, which is that scaling sustainability in higher education is not about convincing more individuals. It's about redesigning the systems in which individuals are operating. Okay. But again, that's just the current kind of snapshot. We are now going to move into the breakout rooms where we have across the 4 lenses, I think 12 different breakouts. I believe Constantin and yeah, we're ready with the breakout rooms. So everyone is being placed into breakout rooms. In each breakout room, there's a facilitator. The facilitator will help keep the time, will help you capture on Miro board your input around key levers and actions that we need to follow up on. And then we're going to come back here and hear from each breakout. So I think that's a pause for this. We'll see you in a short while.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, everyone. Maybe 1 minute sooner than you were expecting to, but hopefully you had some rich conversations and that there are some new ideas and insights emerging for everybody. I agree with you, Connie. I see in the chat, there's not enough time so much to share, but let's take encouragement from the fact that this is just the start of the journey. And I see in the chat, some of you have touched on the levers, not yet the actions. What we will do is in the next 12 minutes, we'll ask the facilitators from the different rooms, depending on how far they got, to each take 60 seconds, no more than 60 seconds, please. And to give us a quick flavor of what emerged in the conversations in your room. We're going to rotate by lens. So I'm going to ask if Pauline, if you are ready, and then after you, Ilse, and then Clémentine. So in room A, 3, 2, and 1, focused on overcoming resistance and building cultures of engagement. I'm going to ask the first person, Pauline. Thanks.
If the other group are ready, I will love to see the insight for the action for my group, because we really have no time at all. I don't know how it's been. So please, if you were quicker, I will be able to read at least all the sticky note for the action parts.
Okay, let's see if someone else from Group A is ready with some initial impressions. And it doesn't have to be perfect at this stage. Ilse?
Yes, thank you. So I would have loved that extra minute also, but it's all right. I'll improvise. I want to thank the people of my group first, because we were cut off quite abruptly. So thank you for the discussion. We've had, we spoke on some levers in terms of creating institutional support. We've also spoke about different approaches depending on who you're trying to reach, be it students or faculty. For students, one of the actions that was mentioned was create a sustainability champions initiative in order to reach students through students, which I found which resonated for me. It gives them ownership in order to strengthen their engagement. And we were finalizing on a really good point that, the actions and the levers are quite culturally sensitive. We had 2 examples from both between France and the United Arab Emirates, and we were just saying on how both those cultures respond differently. Both the student bodies respond differently. So where in the United Arab Emirates an excellence award for students might work really well, that was not felt as true for the context in France.
Excellent.
I hope to have given you an extra minute, Pauline.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
That helps, Ilse. Thank you very much, because it already gives us a flavor. Let's hear Pauline and Clémentine whether you have anything to add from Lens A.
Clémentine, do you want to go ahead?
I'm so sorry, my computer completely crashed. I don't know if you can hear me, but I had a few instincts, but maybe Maëlys, you want to, I don't know if you talked, I haven't heard anything yet, so.
Sure,
okay, I think Clémentine, we're going to move on to Pauline then.
I can go. I can take the responsibility. I can take the responsibility. So we had really just a lot of minutes spending on getting people at the right place. So we had less time on discussing, but we had interesting conversation around differentiating the profiles and adapting the profile and the training and the tools to the different profiles and needs of people. That was actually something also coming from our research on faculty engagement survey that GC talked about. Create a space for everyone for instance, this idea to divide people into a group of resistors and believers is maybe part of also the problem, because if you are in the good group, you will maybe not have a positive idea on yourself, and so direct to these people in a different way, so a way of communicating as well. But most of all, something that really came in common was the institutional support, leadership and academic governance support, to give time, to have fundings, and to support the different faculty members into their mission, to, for instance, understand and digest the framework and helping them into their mission and not letting them individually take the responsibility. And
Many thanks, Pauline. Sorry, we're going to have to wrap up there so that we can move to the next lens and get a snapshot. So I see Aud's already online. Aud, do you want to go ahead? And then Manuel and Raphael can also join.
Thank you, John. We didn't have time to finish the actions and to vote, but I'm seeing on Miro that in the meantime, I've had some heart and stars and flames put on the ideas, so I'll just go through them really quickly. On the lever side, first one that we talked about and that has a star now is agree on a mapping between disciplines and the SDGs, and agree on what we should stop teaching. And I thought that one was pretty interesting. A second one that got heart on it, so I'm guessing we like it a lot. It has 2 hearts actually. It's saying sustainability is learned best through decision tension, not preaching. So we should use discipline-specific case, dilemmas without right answers, and scenarios involving conflicting values to encourage plural perspective and justification and not consensus. There was many others, but I think we're running out of time, so I'll move on quickly to the actions. Sorry, just one action. Create peer-to-peer groups of faculty to map the topics they're teaching with the SDGs. And if you're a teacher, a professor, a dean, or faculty member, open doors and invite stakeholders to the decision making. And I think we've mentioned this indirectly already, just saying there's a cultural perspective to it. Faculty sometimes not really liking being told what to do, and other stakeholders were thinking it might be a good idea to get everybody to the table and try to decide how we embed sustainability in all disciplines together.
Excellent, thank you very much. Moving on to Manuel.
Hello, everybody. In our group, so we're discussing on how to include sustainability in all disciplines. And we focused more on building a new balanced referential of competencies that gather both inner but also outer or external competencies. So both, for instance, SDGs, but also the inner development goals. So we started from the key level of bringing more presencing to the way we teach, but also to the types of knowledge we teach about for our students. And we also talked about a lot about creating convivial communities, gathering with other stakeholders, collaborating with other teachers with this new way of being that is respectful not only of humans but also other than humans in a more aware with more awareness. Thank you.
Thanks, Manuel. And is Raphael lined up to add?
Yes.
Wonderful.
In my group, for the levers, we talked about institutional recognition and some other elements linked to that. So having time and resources allocated to the pedagogical transformation, having assessments that support sustainability learning, and also connecting with communities working on issues people are passionate about, and then trying to see how to create something new in the classroom. And for practical actions, so we had several ideas linked to organizing workshops with members, possibly also gathering students, professors, and other scientific actors, and connecting success stories with details about how to do things.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Raphael. So just checking lens C, and as those people come onto the screen, Maëlys, Constantine, if you can just highlight them, please. I just want to ask you, please stick to sharing one lever and one action maximum, or if you want to emphasize either the levers or the actions, then do so that we get the richness. We're already hearing some wonderful insights from Group A and Group B. Okay. Who from Group C? So let's see. Benoit, Scott, Estella, are you on screen?
Yes.
Please go ahead, Scott. I see your hands raised. Okay, excellent.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you very much. No, thank you for our team as well for good conversation. Focused here on the faculty side of things. Of course, we have many good ideas, but many of them were focused on these notion of incentives. What can we do to help instructors recognize that this is not just an additional thing thrown onto their plate and add on, but to help redefine a little bit their core teaching mission. around the issue of sustainability, and therefore find incentives, practical incentives that faculty members understand in terms of they don't have to teach an extra summer school course if they do X, Y, or Z in the spring semester. We also had comments as well about the importance of adapting these incentives to the different disciplines. Some disciplines can more easily engage with this agenda than others. So we want to make sure that everyone comes together as a university-wide faculty to lock arms, to look at how we best work together to reinvent really what we are teaching and learning. And just the one actual commitment was the importance of institutional leadership. This needs to be a part of the vision and mission of the university, top down, that then can allow the grassroots to take root from below. Back to you, John.
Very good, thanks. Benoit, are you ready to go ahead? Thanks.
Yeah, sure, thank you. Yes, so we discussed also incentives and actions, and to be very short, we emphasized collaborations between departments and also with external stakeholders to really take all the sustainability issues on board. And the practical action behind that would be to identify a contact person in each department to foster these collaborations. And in terms of action, there was also a suggestion to create a name. I think that was interesting, create a name for the initiative. So brand it, so to speak. And then from them on, secure leadership approval, define goals, etc. So yeah, finding a name, I think, would be, and to take everybody on board then from this point is a good point. And that's also what we're doing with the Expandia project here in France. Thank you, and back to you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Benoit. Estella, over to you.
Thank you. There was a lever of developing skills on the transition so people feel competent and involved, but there was also an emerging theme of being aware of what already exists, levers that already exist, or when it comes to practical actions, stock taking of what is already being done, working with colleagues that are already in the field, and also joining decision-making forums where decisions are already currently happening and be able to join that to promote sustainability and build these faculty support systems.
Thank you. So that wraps up Len's C's very high-level feedback. We're now going to hear from Pierre, Alex, and I think Aurelien, if you are ready to bring the last lens of sharing, which of course is focused on institutional alignment and governance. And you were discussing how institutions can walk the talk and how strategy without structure could end up just being words. So who's ready to start sharing on that? Pierre?
Sure, I can go ahead. All right. So I'll focus on the actionable commitments because there were a few and they're pretty much related to the levers. But one of the ones, one that could be highlighted to define an assembly of stakeholders in charge of defining and translating the sustainability strategy, to translate it into actions. Second one is to define metrics to regularly follow up on, maybe something like twice per year, such as sustainability integration in each course program, to make sure that it is being integrated while avoiding overlap. This was important. Make sure that each course is integrating it in a relevant way and not just copying what the next course is doing. And finally, empower dialogue rather than just information broadcasting, meaning it's something that we need to build all together, and it's not just one person deciding. Yeah, we have to involve all the faculty into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. And yeah, I can go next. So a lot of ideas on our side regarding the levers, but the one that actually stands out is defining a clear strategy. So how can sustainability be embedded in the institution's strategic vision? For instance, a 5-year plan. And regarding the practical action, same like a lot of ideas, and the one that's really got all of the stars was something about aligning the learning outcome and the evaluation criteria to the activity-based initiatives with SDGs. So that's the sum up of Group D.
And maybe I can go for the last one. Thank you to my group, and feel free to continue. Indeed, the time was short. So continue to drop ideas on the Miro. Now you have the link. Our main lever was to how do we build the institutional buy-in? And for this, sustainability should go out of its niche, connecting the sustainability office with other stakeholders like faculty, and considering sustainability not as a subject, but as an opportunity for research funding, building projects, and so on. And for this, the main actionable commitment was to use academia to mainstream sustainability through online trainings and capacity building workshops as a way to engage different stakeholders, faculty, students, civil society, and other stakeholders, and as a way to build the institutional buy-in by opening opportunities for projects and fundings. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Aurelien. And I'm conscious that I just want to check. Yeah, we've gone through the whole list.
If I may, John?
Please go ahead, Meredith.
Actually, I was replacing Clémence during a
Wonderful.
crash.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
So for the Group A, so about overcoming resistance and building cultures of engagement. So we selected one lever is to join forces instead of duplicating, connecting with others. And I think the webinar is inspiring us. And for the actionable commitments, we selected to create a sustainability resource map for the campus to be sure that we have all the clear vision of all the initiatives in the campus. Thank you again for my group, and I pass the micro to you, John.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And so we have about 7 or 8 minutes just to hear some closing reflections from those who helped us start the conversation. But having said that, I think it's important to note that this is, as I said earlier, the start of a process, and the reflections that we've already heard just a small taste of in the breakouts can continue. So please continue capturing in the Miro board. Please put pressing, urgent, and insightful comments in the chat as well so that we can capture that. Turning back to Meredith, Adeline, Usha, and Clem, what are you hearing from the participants and the feedback that we've just heard a snapshot of? Who would like to go first? Usha's already unmuted, so Usha, if you're ready to pop, you're welcome.
Thanks, John. It was really interesting listening to what people had to say about the technical issues that we had. So my observations listening to everybody report back are the following. I think it's really important that we need to plan. It's not going to happen overnight. So we need to consider where we need to go, and we need to plan for that. As much as possible, we should use campuses as opportunities for innovation and experimentation. It's not just about talking, but we need to walk the walk, not just do the talk. And we need to use university campuses as an opportunity to seek genuine change, not just do a tick box exercise. And we often talk about successes, but we don't talk about what we have learned from something that hasn't worked. So as part of that learning process, failure is also a learning exercise. And I think we need to share what hasn't worked as much as what has worked. So I think I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thanks. And I'm gonna ask Clem, are you ready to build on that?
Sure. Yeah, it was extremely rich what we've heard today. So that was very inspiring. Maybe a couple of things that I take away with me is that to go mainstream, which is really what we are talking about here, it's maybe to consider a little bit the incentives and opportunities for the faculty wherever we are located in our own institutions. And that can be very different, highlighting base cases, stories, creating communities, offering tools, linking it to the strategy of the university, all these kind of things, but it really depends on the universities. And at the same time, I would like to bring in as well, maybe we need to also consider that faculty have so many different hats. They need to be admin, do university services, they are lecturers, they are researchers, and at the end of the day, yes, it would be great that they do all these at the highest quality and standard possible, but everyone's human being, so we also need to have a little bit of empathy and accompany, empower them wherever they are at, and go with them to support this process on the long run. So it's something that I thought was important also to bring into this conversation, and yeah, hopefully we take that into consideration as well when we plan and use the campuses for experimentation and all these kind of things that are extremely important and relevant to walk the talk, as you mentioned, Usha.
Thank you very much, Clem. Adeline, I see you are already unmuted, so please go ahead.
Yeah, because I wanted to react to Clémentine's and Usha answers and what they said, just about the question of Clémentine, what you said about the different hats of the faculty member. I think it's really important, and it was one of the challenges that we had also when we launched our program, which we called GIFT. It's how to make this sustainability integration into teaching as a priority. And it's a big challenge, and we don't have the answer, but what we have done in order to reduce the pressure also to the faculty members is to include sustainability, teaching, resource, and events inside the meetings which were already planned in the faculty life, I mean, in the department meeting, in the plenary session meeting. So I think it was also quite important, that point. And to make an echo to Usha remarks, you said it's important to plan, and I think you're fully right. It's really important to planify and also to question who we need to involve in the faculty. And one of the key questions also that has been said during this nice Fishbowl session is it's really involve the top management to have this institutional support, and also involve faculty members from different departments. And it's really important to have this diversity of faculty members as ambassadors in order to push this idea in the life of the faculty. And maybe a last point is, if I can, yeah, Usha, you said it's important also to speak about the failure and about also the risk. And I would also to highlight one point is, as we start to develop sustainability into teachings and in all the disciplines, there is one risk that we have to have in mind, is to avoid overlap in between teaching. How we can do in order that in all the course we don't have planetary boundaries, which is taught in all the courses. So the question of follow-up with metrics, what is taught where and which subject is taught where, is really important, because at the end we can have this question of overlap. And just for your information, we on our side map all the courses, the 1,050 and 500 courses, in terms of topics which are linked to sustainability and level of integration in terms of time dedicated in course, without any pressure to faculty members to say it's okay if it's 0%, but just to have in order to follow this integration, which is, I think, also really important, also for the attract desirability for the students also.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Adeline. And then Meredith, I know by now you should have your second cup of coffee or your alarm should be going off. So you've been very brave joining us so early in the morning. Some closing reflections from your side, please.
Oh, yes, of course. And I think you've choreographed this very well, because I'd like to build on what Adeline just said about the risk and the overlap here. We've spent a lot of time in this discussion really zoomed out on the bigger themes and the issues that are talking about. But when we look into each individual, Clémentine's on my screen here, and I know that you're here to represent the St. Gallen's work and the systemic work, but you also have a network of the sustainability in academia. I've seen Shannon in the chat with SDSN and the SDG Academy resources. Scott's here and Pauline, I haven't seen them in ages, but we've done the I5 project together. The work that so many individuals on this call represent is very unifying. And Adeline, to what you said about not wanting to overlap, not wanting to recreate this wheel, to look into the resources and the work that surrounds us. One of the main themes of the Miro board for the pedagogy work was finding resources, finding curriculum, finding ways to bring sustainability themes to not just be words on paper, but to be actions lived out through our pedagogy and through our systems and our reflection. And to say that those resources are there, those conversations and dialogues are there. John, I'm thinking also the work you do around deans. If it's a top level, we've got folks for that. If it's grassroots with the students, Ochs is here on this call. There is so many wonderful voices to be included in this conversation, and several of them are represented here today. So just to move forward, unified, not so much worried about the overlap, but worried about making those connections and building together, and seeing what networks you fit in naturally and raising each other up around that for pedagogy, but for wider systems change, truly.
Thank you very much, Meredith, and I think very fitting to also reference the need to work at multiple levels for systems change. So it falls on me just to, firstly, I think, thank those who have helped us start the conversation. So thank you very much, Meredith, Usha, Clem, and Adeline for helping inform this. And of course, to everybody who's been taking part in the Fishbowls and facilitating those. Before we move to the more formal close, I want to acknowledge also that what we did here today was in many ways an experiment in learning, not just in terms of the content, but also in terms of the process. We moved from input into dialogue, into co-creation, back into shared reflection. And that was quite intentional. Because if we take a living systems perspective on the work we're doing, then the way in which we work and learn together is not separate from the outcomes that we're trying to create. We often say, using the words of Myron Rogers, that the process we use to get to the future is the future we get. So if we want to be more collaborative, adaptive, context sensitive in our approaches to sustainability in higher education, then we need to also practice those ways of working as we go. And I've seen in the comments people saying it would be wonderful if we could all meet in person. That's not always possible. So we also need to innovate relationally through the technology that we have available. So I think today, even in a short space of time, we've begun to do that. And perhaps the invitation then is simply to carry this way of engaging forward, both in person, locally, but also into your institutions, into global networks, and of course into our practice globally. I'm now handing over to Professor Yamaguchi, who I believe is going to provide some closing remarks. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon and good evening, everyone. And on behalf of the United Nations University Institute for the Advanced Study of the Sustainability, and as the co-chair of the HESI, it is my great pleasure to conclude the launch of the Expandia project today. Jesse and all the respectful teachers, I have to confess that I have really enjoyed this workshop very much today, as I always wanted to be a teacher since my childhood, and I am still a teacher, teaching our graduate student at the United Nations University. So, as a teacher, my remarks start with a question to all of you, so please answer me. How long has the concept of the education for the sustainable development, ESD, being around? Anyone who is brave enough to respond? How many years? How many decades? The concept of the ESDs. Anyone? Teachers?
I would say thousands of years. That's what a lot of indigenous cultures have been doing.
All right, yeah, all right, okay, okay. I love that, the question. I love that, the answer. It's actually true, but okay, officially speaking, the concept of the education for the sustainable development was first recognized globally in 1992 at the UN conference on education development in Rio de Janeiro. This was my second year of the working at UNESCO education sector. Okay, so that means it has been almost 35 years. Okay. Although I do not deny the endless effort of the member state to make this ESD activity happen, it is probably difficult to say that those ESD initiatives have really served its purpose to educate everyone on Earth with lifelong commitment on sustainable development. And of course, it is not the entire education sector's fault, but I do believe that we share that responsibility. So according, okay, UN, United Nations University, we are the academic arm of the UN system. So we do have quite a number of the research. So according to the research that United Nations University conducted, there are a number of reasons why the ESD did not fully work in the past. One, overly focusing on cognitive knowledge and less action promoting ESDs. And two, superficial level of the curriculum integration. And three, lack of ESD pedagogical the training for the teachers. And four, lack of intersectoral collaboration. So given in this context, I really believe the project Expandia cannot be more timely and critical at this moment. So thanks to the clear vision of the French government supporting this project, the project Expandia will establish a community of the practices among university professors and other educators. So with the training of the trainers, TOT, the model, the more than 6,000 educators across France will be trained to design and deliver the effective, action-oriented, and curriculum-bound the ESD for the higher education. This is really unprecedented, and I am very proud to be the part of this engagement. At the United Nations University, we have a similar initiatives supporting 55 leading universities in 15 countries in Asia and Pacific through a regional network called ProsperNet. And Professor Usha Iyer-Raniga, who served as a panelist today, has led one of the promising the ESD curriculum integration cases jointly with the 4 other member universities of this network. So I do hope that through our network with HESI, we see more of such a joint cross-disciplinary curriculum integration among universities across the world and between the regions. So this webinar today marked a very important first step in sharing experiences around the vital project, especially the mass training of the educators to integrate sustainability concept into their courses. So it is fully HESI's role to bring ideas to light and amplify their impact. So in a few years, we may look back and say that HESI, through its initiatives, has fully embodied its mission, that is, creating synergies among all the stakeholders to transform the practices. So in closing, I would like to congratulate again Sulitest and JC Carteron and his team on these great initiatives. And I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to the government of France for supporting Expandia. You are not just supporting university educators, but planting the seed for the next generation of the countries and beyond to become an informed citizen for a just and sustainable future. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention, and back to you, JC and Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Yamaguchi, and thank you all of you for this incredible session. And of course, a huge thanks for the speakers, facilitators, and of course, John, for helping this amazing fishbowl. I think we can all agree at least on two things. First of all, scaling up training the trainers program, it's a key topic. This is the first thing. The second thing is we didn't have enough time to find a solution. This is, at least we can agree on that. There are a couple good news. The first one is there are lots of material, lots of initiative, lots of goodwill all over the world, and this is a good news. And lots of success and probably lots of mistakes. So if we can learn from that all together, it could be really great. The second good news, from my point of view, it's given the energy that we saw in every single breakout room, the movement to scale up training the trainers is already alive. And I think we have to work on that. And I think, as Professor Yamaguchi, sorry, you mentioned, I deeply believe it's a role of HESI to help that, to find synergies. So Expandia, in the next couple of months, Expandia will start. We will start the first deployment in some universities in France. And of course, HESI will continue to work to connect things. And I think we will have other seminars or face-to-face meeting. If you all agree, by the way, we will compile everything and keep you updated on the coming month. I don't have any specific time right now, but don't worry, you're going to receive something from us. And to conclude, I think none of us, as I mentioned at the beginning, have the solution, but it's actually up to all of us together to make something of that. So thanks a lot. And before I close, on time, which is quite rare, 2 dates for HESI. The first one is if you are in Jakarta for the Global Sustainable Development Congress organized by THE, we have a partnership with them and we have an amazing workshop together on the 22nd of June. And of course, we have to confirm the date, but every year, you know that we are at the high-level political forum, HESI, and we have a special event there. So this time is going to be the 10th of July. We don't have yet the full detail on the website, but you will see that in a couple of weeks. So again, thank you so much. It's 12 o'clock in France, so I think we can clap. Thank you, all of you. And see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you a lot.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.